I was driving for Uber back in late 2021. By that point, I had gotten pretty used to the grind of late-night shifts, bars letting out, airport runs, random hotel pickups. It was extra money, and since my day job wasn't cutting it, I did what I had to do. Most of the time, it was nothing more than drunk people trying to flirt or falling asleep in the back seat. But every now and then, you'd get a ride that stayed in your head. This one has never left mine. It was just after 11:45 p.m. on a Saturday. I was parked at a 7-Eleven on the edge of town, grabbing a coffee and a hot dog to keep myself awake. My phone pinged with a request almost instantly after I got back in the car. The name said Brian, pickup from a laundromat about 5 minutes away. The thing was, that laundromat was closed after 10. I knew that because I'd picked people up there before. I figured maybe Brian worked at one of the businesses nearby, or maybe he just used the laundromat's address as a marker. Happens more often than you'd think. When I pulled up, the strip mall was mostly dark except for a flickering light above the laundromat door. Nobody else around. But standing at the corner of the building was this guy in a dark jacket, just waiting. He wasn't on his phone, not smoking, just standing perfectly still like he'd been waiting for me specifically. I rolled down the passenger window a little and said, "Hey, Brian?" The man turned his head slowly, nodded once and walked over. He didn't answer me, but he opened the back door and got in. He sat directly behind me, which always feels a little unnerving. Most riders go for the opposite side. I checked the app. Drop-off was a residential street I didn't recognize. About 25 minutes out, near the edge of town where the houses get spread out and the streetlights get scarce. "Heading home?" I asked casually, trying to gauge him. He said, in a voice that was calm but oddly flat, "Yeah. Home." That was it. No small talk, no details, just home. I pulled out of the lot, sipping my coffee, trying to shake off the feeling that something was wrong. The car smelled faintly of gasoline all of a sudden. At first I thought it was outside, but then I realized it was coming from him. Like his jacket or clothes were soaked in it. I didn't comment. I just kept driving. For the first 10 minutes, he didn't move, didn't say anything. I glanced at the mirror a couple of times, and every single time his eyes were already locked on mine. Not my reflection. Me. Like he was studying the back of my head. I tried to break the silence. "Busy night?" Nothing. I tried again. "Do you work around here?" He waited several seconds before answering. Not anymore. His tone didn't change. Flat, empty, like he was reciting something. That answer sat heavy with me. I didn't ask what he meant. As we got closer to the outskirts, the roads grew darker, lined with trees. The app told me to take a right onto a long stretch with no streetlights. That's when he leaned forward, his voice suddenly closer, and said, "Turn here." The GPS wanted me to keep going straight another mile, but I hesitated and asked, "Is that faster?" "Just turn," he said firmly. Against my better judgment, I did. The road was narrow and cracked, leading deeper into the woods. After about half a mile, he told me, "Pull over here." I slowed down, but I didn't see a house or even a mailbox, just a patch of dirt beside the road. I said, "You sure this is the place?" He didn't answer. He just repeated, "Pull over." Something in me screamed not to. I tapped the screen on my phone and pretended it froze. The app won't let me end the trip unless I drop you at the address." For the first time, his voice changed. He sounded irritated. I said, pull over." My hands tightened on the wheel. I said lightly, "Look, man, I don't want to get penalized by the app. I'll take you up to the pin and we're good, all right?" There was silence. I could feel his stare drilling into me, but he didn't say another word. I kept driving, acting calm, but my heart was racing. My coffee cup was shaking in the holder. When we finally reached the pin, my headlights lit up a small, run-down house at the end of the road. The lawn was knee-high, windows boarded, no lights inside. It looked abandoned. I shifted the car into park. Here we are. He didn't move, didn't unbuckle. He just sat there, staring at the house like it was something alive. After almost a minute, he opened the door and stepped out. He didn't close it. He leaned down, peered back inside the car, and said in a low voice, "Wait here." Then he walked toward the house. I sat frozen. The interior lights stayed on because he left the door cracked. My gut was screaming at me to leave, but my brain was stuck between not wanting trouble and not wanting to find out what he was doing. 2 minutes passed. Then 3. The woods around me were dead quiet. Finally, I reached over and slammed his door shut, put the car in reverse, and started backing out. That's when I saw him. He wasn't at the house. He was standing in the middle of the dirt road behind me, blocking the way out. No flashlight, no phone. Just standing there, head tilted slightly, arms hanging at his sides. I stopped. We stared at each other through the glass. Then, he slowly raised his hand and pointed at me. Not at the car, at me. Something inside me snapped. I threw the car into drive, spun the wheel, and gunged it across the lawn, bouncing hard over rocks and grass until I hit pavement again. I didn't care about the suspension, didn't care about the noise. I just drove. I didn't look back until I was 2 miles away under the safety of streetlights. My hands were trembling so badly, I had to pull into a gas station and just sit there, breathing, trying to calm down. When I opened the app to check the trip, the entire ride was gone. No record of it. No name. No pickup. Nothing. I called Uber support, same as always, and they told me maybe the rider canceled midway or the app glitched. But I know what happened. I know that man got into my car, and I know what he said and did. For weeks after, I couldn't shake the image of him standing in the road, pointing, like he had chosen me for something, but changed his mind at the last second. What do you think? Was he planning to hurt me, or just trying to scare me? Sometimes, late at night, when I'm driving on empty streets and my mirror catches a shadow in the back seat, I swear I see his eyes again, staring right at me. I was driving for Uber in the summer of 2022. By then, I had been doing it for about a year, mostly weekends and late nights, since that's when the money was best. I live in a mid-sized city with a downtown bar strip, so after midnight it was constant pickups. Drunk groups, bachelorette parties, people carrying greasy pizza boxes into my back seat. That Saturday night started the same as usual. It was around 1 a.m. when I got a request with the name Jason. The pin showed a pickup near the back of an old movie theater that had been converted into a furniture outlet. Not exactly a place you'd expect someone to be at 1 in the morning, but sometimes pins are a little off. I drove over and found a man standing alone under a streetlight at the corner of the lot. He was tall, wearing a black windbreaker even though it was warm outside, and holding a backpack in one hand. He didn't wave me down or even move until I rolled up right next to him. "You Jason?" I asked through the window. He gave a slow nod, then got into the back seat without a word. The destination was set to a residential address about 20 minutes out, on the opposite end of town in one of those neighborhoods with big houses and hardly any streetlights. "Heading home?" I asked, trying to break the silence. His answer was almost a whisper. "For now." That threw me a little. I laughed it off nervously and started driving. For the first 10 minutes, he didn't speak at all. He didn't even pull out his phone, just sat upright, staring straight ahead. At one point, I noticed something weird. His backpack wasn't zipped shut, and sticking out from the side pocket was what looked like an old cassette tape recorder. Who carries around something like that in 2022? I asked, "What's in the bag?" in a half-joking way, just to cut the tension. He looked at me in the mirror and said flatly, "You'll find out." That made my stomach drop. I told myself maybe he was just being sarcastic. Maybe I misheard him. But I didn't ask again. When we got close to the neighborhood, the streets got darker. The GPS had me turning onto a road that dead-ended near some woods. His pin was right at the end. As I slowed down, he leaned forward and said, "Not here. Keep going straight." "There's no road straight ahead," I told him. He pointed toward a dirt path that led off the paved road, almost hidden by trees. "There. Just follow that." My gut twisted. "Sorry, man, I can't. The app won't cover it, and my car'll bottom out." For a moment, he didn't answer. Then, in a calm but firmer voice, he said, "Just drive." I gripped the wheel tighter. "Look, I can only take you to the address in the app. If you need to go somewhere else, you'll have to update the ride." He leaned back slowly, breathing heavier, but didn't argue. I took that as my chance and pulled into the cul-de-sac where the pin was. There was a single house at the end, completely dark. No porch light, no cars, no sign of life. "Here we are," I said, pretending like nothing was wrong. He didn't move. He stared at the house for what felt like a full minute. Then he opened the door, stepped out, and just stood there with the backpack dangling from his hand. I waited. 30 seconds passed. A minute. Finally, I ended the trip in the app and put the car in reverse. That's when he suddenly leaned down to the open door and said, "Don't go anywhere." Before I could react, he turned and walked around the side of the house, disappearing into the shadows. Every nerve in my body was telling me to leave. I shifted into drive and hit the gas. I didn't care about the rating or the penalty. I just needed to get away. I drove 1 block, then pulled into a gas station to catch my breath. I got out, splashed water on my face in the bathroom, and tried to convince myself I was overreacting. When I came back out, my blood turned to ice. He was sitting in the back seat of my car again. Same posture, same calm expression. The backpack was on the floor between his feet. I swear I had locked the doors before going inside, but somehow he was there. I froze at the driver's side door. "How did you—" "Take me back," he interrupted, his voice low but firm. "Back where?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Where you found me." My instinct was to call the cops right then and there, but something about the way he said it made my hands tremble too much to even grab my phone. Against my better judgment, I got in and started driving. The whole way back, he never broke eye contact with me in the mirror. His breathing was heavy, almost excited. At one point, he whispered, "They don't like it when I bring strangers there." I wanted to ask who they were, but I was terrified of the answer. When we got back near the movie theater lot, he told me to stop under the same street light. I did. He opened the door, picked up his backpack, and paused. Then he leaned down, his face inches from mine, and said, You should never have seen that house." Before I could respond, he shut the door and walked off into the shadows behind the theater. I sat there frozen for several minutes before I finally drove home. When I checked the app history later, that ride wasn't there. No Jason, no trip record, nothing. Like it never happened. I contacted Uber support, but they told me sometimes rides don't log properly if the app crashes or if the rider cancels mid-trip. But I know what I saw. I know what I felt. To this day, I have no idea what was in that backpack or what he meant about they. But I do know one thing. When I drive past that end of town, I never take requests that show up near that theater. Because I'm terrified that one night, I'll see him waiting under that streetlight again. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed stories, subscribe and like this video. We share new stories every week.